Hello everyone, and welcome back to True Lore Archives. Today, we'll explore one of the most chilling yet overlooked true stories from the early 20th century. A case so strange, so unsettling, that newspapers at the time didn't know whether to call it a medical miracle or a terrifying mistake. This is the story of a young girl, officially declared dead in 1912, and how hours later, she opened her eyes inside her coffin. The year was 1912. In a quiet rural town in Pennsylvania, United States. Life at the time was simple, but harsh. Diseases spread easily, and medical science wasn't nearly as advanced as it is today. Doctors had little more than stethoscopes and kerosene lamps. The family at the center of this story was the Danforth family. They weren't wealthy, a working-class household with 4 children. Their second daughter, Anna Danforth, was only 14 years old when tragedy struck. One cold evening in late November, Anna fell seriously ill. At first it seemed like a fever, but within hours she began to convulse. Her breathing became shallow, her skin turned pale. The family rushed to fetch the town doctor, a man named Dr. Walter Hines, who had practiced medicine in the area for nearly 30 years. Dr. Hines examined Anna by lamplight. He listened for her pulse. He pressed his ear to her chest. After several tense minutes, he removed his spectacles and gave the words no parent ever wants to hear. She's gone. The family erupted in grief. Anna's mother collapsed onto the floor, wailing. Her father clenched his fists, staring in disbelief at the still figure of his daughter. At that time, death certificates were often signed within hours. Embalming wasn't always practiced in rural towns. Instead, families held a wake at home. The body was dressed, placed in a coffin, and mourned for 1 or 2 nights before burial. And so, the Danforth family prepared Anna's body. She was dressed in a simple white gown, her hair braided neatly, and her coffin placed in the parlor. Relatives and neighbors gathered to pay their respects. Candles flickered around her pale face. People whispered prayers. But not everyone was convinced. Anna's older brother, Samuel, insisted that her cheeks didn't look right. "She doesn't look dead," he told their mother. "She looks like she's sleeping." His concerns were brushed aside. Death was common in those years. Families had to accept loss quickly with no time for questions. By dawn, the coffin was sealed shut. And the following afternoon, the burial began. It was overcast and cold, the kind of Pennsylvania November day where the sky sits low and heavy, like a lid. A horse-drawn cart carried Anna's coffin along the dirt path to the family plot behind the old churchyard. The wheels creaked. The mourners walked in silence. Snowflakes began to fall soft, early flurries that melted as soon as they touched the ground. Anna's mother walked arm in arm with her husband, her eyes vacant. She hadn't spoken since the coffin was closed. Her black shawl fluttered slightly in the breeze. Samuel trailed behind them, eyes fixed on the coffin. His fists were clenched at his sides. As they reached the burial site, the Reverend began a quiet prayer. The coffin was gently lowered into the open grave. Someone wept. A handful of dirt was tossed onto the lid. But then, something happened. It was subtle, almost like a sound. A thud. Then again thud. At first, no one reacted. Just wind, they assumed. Maybe shifting wood. But Samuel stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Wait," he said. The priest paused. All heads turned. Samuel moved to the edge of the grave, staring at the box. "I heard something," he said. From inside, a murmur rippled through the small group. The undertaker, a stout man named Mr. Greeley, shook his head. "Son, I assure you," thud. Louder this time, clear, then scratching. The crowd gasped. "Get her out," Samuel shouted. "She's alive." Panic erupted. Men rushed forward with shovels. The coffin hadn't been covered yet, only dusted with dirt. It was hauled back up as fast as trembling hands could manage. Mr. Greeley pried the lid loose, and there. Inside, Anna gasped. Her eyes flew open. She clutched at the air like someone pulled from underwater. Screams erupted, not of terror, but of disbelief, hysteria, joy. Her mother fainted on the spot. Samuel grabbed his sister's hand, tears pouring down his face. She couldn't speak at first. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted around, trying to understand. They rushed her back to the house, laid her on a proper bed, and wrapped her in warm blankets. Her skin was ice cold. Her breaths came in shallow rasps, but she was alive. Dr. Hines was summoned again, and this time his face was pale. This is impossible," he muttered. "She had no pulse, no breath. I checked twice. But there she was, Anna Danforth, very much alive, saved just moments before being buried beneath 6 feet of frozen earth. It would take nearly a week before she could speak again. But when she did, her first words chilled everyone in the room. I remember hearing you all cry. Her voice was weak. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak, but I was awake. I heard the prayers. I heard Sam saying I wasn't gone. A long silence followed. No one could comprehend what they were hearing. I screamed," she whispered. "But it was like no one could hear me." She looked directly at Samuel. "You were the only one who listened." The house was never the same after Anna returned from the dead. In the first few days, word spread like fire through the town. Neighbors who had come to pay respects now returned in disbelief, standing awkwardly at the Danforths' front gate, whispering in hushed tones. Some brought pies, others Bibles. A few simply stood in the road, staring up at the window where Anna now sat, propped in bed with quilts and firelight at her side. People called it a miracle. Others weren't so sure. "Was never dead to begin with," said Dr. Hines defensively to a group of townsfolk at the general store. "It must have been some rare nervous condition, catalepsy. Yes, she was in a trance-like state, not death." But the whispers continued. Some claimed Anna had been touched by God. Others feared something more. Unnatural had happened, that she had crossed some veil and returned with part of it clinging to her. Meanwhile, inside the Danforth home, Anna began to speak more. She remembered everything, not just the voices, but the darkness. The worst part, she told her brother, was how still everything was. I could hear the candles flicker. I could hear my own heartbeat. But I couldn't move my lips, couldn't open my eyes. Her voice trembled. I thought I was already buried. I thought I was going to die for real, slowly in there. Samuel never left her side. Each night, he slept on the floor next to her bed, a lantern burning low between them. Sometimes she would jolt awake in a panic, clawing at her sheets. Sometimes she wept. But then came the dreams. "I keep seeing a room," she whispered to her mother. "But it's not this house. It's all gray. The windows are too high to reach. There's something behind the door." Her mother tried to soothe her. "Just dreams, sweetheart. You've been through a terrible ordeal." But Anna insisted. "I wasn't alone," she said. "I think something followed me back." Weeks passed. Anna slowly regained her strength, but not everything returned to normal. She no longer laughed like she used to. She wouldn't go near the family's parlor, the same room where her coffin had been placed. She wouldn't touch candles. And sometimes, in the middle of conversation, she'd go silent, eyes fixed on something behind a person's shoulder. When asked, she'd only murmur, "Nothing. It's gone now." By January, Anna began sleepwalking. Samuel found her one night standing at the edge of the field behind their home, barefoot in the snow, her white nightgown glowing under the moonlight. "Anna!" he shouted, rushing to her. But her eyes were open, glassy, unfocused. "I wasn't sleepwalking," she told him the next morning. "I was trying to find where I was buried." Samuel stared at her, confused. "Weren't? We stopped it. You never got buried." But she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "Not in that graveyard." He didn't understand, till she added, "They showed me a different place." By mid-January, the Danforth house was no longer just a home. It had become a spectacle. People came from other towns. Some out of genuine awe, others out of morbid curiosity. A newspaper from Harrisburg printed the headline, "Dead Girl Breathes Again. Medical Error or Divine Wonder." Strangers knocked on the door asking to see Anna. A few tried to offer money. One man, a traveling preacher, demanded to test her soul with Holy Scripture. Mr. Danforth sent him away with a shotgun in hand. The Danforth family began closing their shutters during the day. They couldn't go to church without being stared at. Whispers followed them in the pews. Anna's younger sister was teased by classmates. One boy shouted, Your sister came from the devil." Mrs. Danforth broke down crying in the market when a neighbor moved her basket away and muttered, "Resurrected things ain't always holy." And at the center of it all, Anna, pale and quiet, no longer asking questions, just watching. Dr. Hines, growing increasingly embarrassed by the press and attention, tried to change the story. He went door to door, repeating that he'd never confirmed death, only presumed unconsciousness. But folks remembered his exact words, "She's gone." Others began re-examining his past patients, muttering in private whether anyone else had been buried too soon. Then, in early February, the town held a small meeting at the courthouse. Unofficially, it was about keeping the peace. Officially, people wanted the Danforths to leave. "They're good folks," said Mr. Landry, the blacksmith. "But this ain't natural. We all feel it. That house gives me chills." "They're not the same anymore," whispered Mrs. Forrester. "You see the girl in the window? She don't blink," even the preacher from St. Luke's said softly. "God brings miracles, but the devil can mimic." Mr. Danforth refused to leave. "We've done nothing wrong," he shouted from the courthouse steps. "My daughter was not buried. My daughter is alive, and that's all that matters." But that night, someone broke their barn window. The next morning, a cross was burned into the frost on their front lawn. Anna saw it from the window. She didn't say a word. She just closed the curtain. That spring, the birds returned to Pennsylvania, but the Danforths stopped hearing them. By March, neighbors no longer waved as they passed by the house. Children took different paths to school. Postmen dropped letters at the end of the fence, instead of walking up to the porch. Anna began to spend her days in the attic, not hiding, just watching. Samuel, her older brother, would bring her meals and sit with her. But even he admitted to his mother one day, "She stares for hours, Ma. Doesn't speak, doesn't sleep. She just listens." Mrs. Danforth tried to smile, but even she had started locking the attic door at night. Then the animals started dying. First it was the chickens, found cold and stiff one morning, their necks oddly twisted, but no blood, no predator marks. Then one of the neighbor's cats went missing. Days later, its body turned up under the Danforth's porch, perfectly intact, except for the eyes. That was when people stopped whispering and started accusing. "They brought her back when she shouldn't have come," said Mrs. Forrester at the market. "They disturbed God's will. She doesn't eat," claimed a boy who spied through their window. "She sits in the dark all day." "No," said the butcher's wife. "She waits." By April, someone left a dead crow nailed to the Danforth's door. Mr. Danforth tore it down, red-faced and trembling, but the next morning a second crow appeared, this one with its beak sewn shut. That same week, Dr. Hines left town. No goodbye, no forwarding address, and then came the night of the fire. It started at the edge of the Danforth's barn, a lantern, a gust of wind, or maybe something less accidental. By the time the fire spread to the house, neighbors watched but did not help. Mr. Danforth managed to pull his wife and children from the smoke, but when he realized Anna was still inside, he ran back in. They say he shouted her name again and again, that he made it up the stairs, that he reached the attic door, found it already open. He never came back out. The fire was finally put out by dawn, but the damage was done. Half the house was gone, 2 rooms turned to ash, but the attic, completely untouched. And Anna? Gone. In the days that followed, rumors swirled. They found footprints in the soot leading away from the house. She was seen by the river that night, barefoot, smiling. Her eyes were glowing. The remaining Danforths moved in with cousins upstate. No one ever found Anna's body. But late one summer evening, a girl matching her description was spotted sitting quietly at the edge of a graveyard in a nearby town. ... In a white gown, with her hair neatly braided. In the years that followed, the story of Anna Danforth turned into something else. Not a tragedy. Not quite a ghost story. Something more unsettling. Farmers told their sons not to wander near the woods after dark. Not because of wolves, they'd say, but because of her. Old women whispered that if a child passed away suddenly and the body didn't cool fast enough, it meant Anna had come through the walls and whispered to them first. But not all the stories were cruel. Some claimed Anna had been chosen, not cursed. That she returned not out of evil, but because death had made a mistake. The grave she left behind remained unmarked. Each year, someone, no one knew who, would leave a small white flower beside it. Not roses, not lilies, but snowdrops. A flower that blooms in winter and survives cold. And every time they did, a stray dog would howl from the hills, even if no wind stirred. In 1937, a traveling nurse at a rural clinic in Ohio recounted a strange encounter. She swore that a girl, pale, with dark eyes and braided hair, had arrived one rainy night with a dying child in her arms. The girl said nothing. She just laid the child gently on the bench, turned, and disappeared down the road before the nurses could even ask her name. The child survived, bright, but no one ever figured out who she was or how she'd known to bring him. Today, the Danforth house no longer stands. The land was sold, the records lost. But local children dare each other to spend a night near the spot where the parlor once was. Some say they hear footsteps overhead. Some say they wake with their hair braided. And some say nothing at all. But they all agree on one thing. Don't say her name out loud, especially not at night, because if you do, she might remember you. If this story haunted you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We dive deep into true legends, chilling history, and stories you were never meant to hear. And let us know in the comments. What other real historical tales do you want us to explore next?